Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. Half that work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here from 1 to 3. Got Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back on the ones and twos. JD Piquel's with us every Wednesday talking college football. There's just crazy stuff going on at Michigan right now, so we'll get JD's thoughts on that as well as some of the action from last week and previewing LSU's bye weekend. And the slate this weekend in college football is a What If Wednesday. So at 1:30, we'll get to your What Ifs. I've got some thoughts on the World Series, the Saints and Colts. We'll start to look ahead to that game on Sunday. Brian Kelly was on the SEC's teleconference earlier today. And, of course, it is Wednesday, which means our SEC football power rankings are just 90 minutes away. So, without any further ado, let's get into the action today. By now, I think all of us are aware that the story surrounding LSU in this bye week is the collective situation at defensive back. It's been an issue all year in terms of depth, injuries, and performance, and none of those seem to be going away as we enter the bye week and you get to be where you're 10, 11 days out from the game against Alabama. You know by now that Zy Alexander got hurt on Saturday. You know that Ashton Stamps and LaTerrence Welsh have missed time over the last 2 weeks. You know that Deuce Chestnut and Denver Harris have been, quote-unquote, inactive, away from the team, whatever the case may be. You know that LSU's DBs haven't been great anyway. So this is the situation that we've been discussing for a few days. I want to go back to yesterday's media availability and give you Brian Kelly's update on Deuce Chestnut and Denver Harris, two of the guys we thought would be starters at corner for this team.
Listen, I know a lot of people have questions about their status. All I can tell you is that they're on scholarship, they're enrolled in school, but right now they're not participating. They're still in the program, they're still in good standing, but they're not able to play right now. So let's leave it at that. Let's be patient, and we'll see what happens down the road.
Unfortunately, Coach, it's not my job to leave it at that. I've got to expound on it a little bit. It's obviously discipline. We know this at some point. There have been some things that have gone on away from football that don't allow those two guys onto the field. They're not practicing during the bye week. And quite frankly, with no inside information whatsoever, I'm not comfortable sitting here telling you that I think they're going to play on next Saturday against Alabama. I'm far more comfortable telling you, don't think you're going to have those two guys. If you do, great. That's fantastic. It doesn't feel that way. So you look at this defensive backfield, and you're you're low on dudes. LaTerrence Welsh can play. Ashton Stamps can play. He returned to practice. Jeremiah Hughes can play. Sage Ryan can play. Javian Toviano can play. That's kind of where it stops at corner. So physically, there are enough humans, just none of them have played. You haven't asked Jeremiah Hughes and Javian Toviano to do anything. Ashton Stamps has played very little college football. Sage Ryan's a safety. So next week, we'll dive into what in the heck LSU's going to do in the secondary. But thankfully, at this point in this week, which is a bye, we can take a deep breath and I can go, okay, this is a secondary that's had numbers and talent issues for 2 years now. Why? Well, it's pretty simple. Eli Ricks and Dwight McLaughlin left. You filled the transfer portal up with guys, and then they left. You know that story by now. You know about Jark Bernard Converse. You know about Mekhi Garner. You know about Joe Fouché. Like, they brought in guys as a stopgap, and they left. And then they brought in some more guys this year. And 2 of them are inactive and are not helping you at all. So I'm not here to talk about the next 10 days. I'm here to talk about the next 2 years, which I'm well aware is a very, very difficult game to play in college football because the transfer portal is such a massive deal. So I understand that what I'm describing to you is not etched in stone. Far from it. It's etched in sand. But we can get a reasonable look at where LSU's secondary stands in terms of the health of that unit for the program, not for Alabama. Okay? So you don't have a senior corner on this team. Not one. Everybody that plays corner on this team is eligible to come back next year. That's a decent place to start. Zy Alexander's been decent this year. He's a junior. If he wants to come back and play more football, he can. Deuce Chestnut's a junior. quite frankly, am I counting on him to be on the team next year? Probably not. I don't know. That's no inside information. He's not hurt, and he hadn't been around. For me to sit here and tell you, well, you just plug Deuce Chestnut in the nickel next year, that would be a pretty foolish thing to say. But LaTerrence Welsh, it's a guy from right here in state. Denver Harris is a sophomore. You transfer somewhere else, you got to sit out. He could be back. J.K. Johnson's a sophomore. He broke his leg. Now, he's dealt with injuries for 2 years now. So I'm not telling you he's going to come back and be a first-team All-American, but he is a sophomore and can come back. Ashton Stamps is a freshman. Jeremiah Hughes is a freshman. Javian Toviano is a freshman. That's 3 guys you think can play corner, although Toviano's working at safety more. That's 3 freshmen and 3 sophomores and 2 juniors that are on this team. Plus, if you look at the 2024 class that LSU's bringing in, Kai Bates, 4-star corner from Orlando. Juwan Johnson's one of the best players in the state of Louisiana. He's playing quarterback right now for Lafayette Christian, but he's a projected corner and a really good athlete. P.J. Woodland is a guy they brought in with a commitment out of Hattiesburg in the last couple of days. You've got Wallace Foster, who's a 3-star corner from Warren Easton. You've got Bernard Causey, who you got yesterday as a commitment. He's from John F. Kennedy down in New Orleans. He's a 3-star. That's 5 guys who play corner in this class. Now, all of a sudden, I look at this and I go, this has been a big issue for 2 years, but there's a lot of depth in numbers in what this projects to next year. It is not unreasonable at all for me to look at the cornerback position at LSU and go, on next year's roster, I think there's a pretty good chance you've got Zy Alexander, LaTerrence Welsh, Denver Harris, J.K. Johnson, Ashton Stamps, Jeremiah Hughes, Javian Toviano, Kai Bates, Juwan Johnson, P.J. Woodland, Wallace Foster, Bernard Causey. That's like 10 or 11 guys. Now, the odds are one of the guys I just listed doesn't work out and transfers out. That's just the nature of the beast. But you've got enough depth of numbers there that make you go, okay, you got some people, and you're bringing in high schoolers. Stamps is from high school. Hughes is from high school. Toviano's from high school. Bates, Johnson, Woodland, Foster, Causey, those are all high school guys. You're starting to do the way you should be doing it. You can't stop gapping every year with transfer guys because sometimes you're going to get Jarek Bernard Converse and Mekhi Garner, and sometimes you're going to get Deuce Chestnut and Denver Harris. And you can't play that game every year. And then you move over to safety. You do have senior safeties. Greg Brooks is out of eligibility. He's got far greater things to concern himself with. We understand that. Andre Sam is a grad transfer. He's been in college for, let me check my notes, 11 years, so he's going to have to move on. Major Burns is a junior. He can come back if he wants to. Sage Ryan's a redshirt sophomore. Matthew Langlois is a redshirt sophomore. Jordan Allen's a redshirt freshman. Ryan Yates is a freshman. Kylan Jackson's a freshman. Plus, you've got 2 really highly thought of safeties in this class in Deshaun McBride and Joel Rogers from right here in the state of Louisiana. That's 7 or 8 young safeties that you've got. So while I long for the days where I could go out to practice, which I did often in 2011, and I saw Brandon Taylor, and I saw Eric Reed, and I saw Morris Claiborne and Tyron Matthew and Thorold Simon and Ron Brooks, and that was the group I was looking at. This is not quite that. This is not quite Grant Delpit and Christian Fulton. It's not quite Derek Stingley. But you're starting to pull in significant numbers at those positions, and you shouldn't be in the absolute bind that you've been in the last 2 years. It's a slow process to get out that way. It's more fun to go fill it in the transfer portal. Oh, he was all ACC where? Get him in. Oh, he's a former 5-star? It'll work out here. That's all fun and games, plug and play. And unless you had to do that for 2 years, you did not have an option. Unless you wanted to go sign 7 freshmen and toss them all out there last year, this wasn't an option. You were going to have to go fill in the transfer portal. And good news, because you've got 11 corners coming back, does not preclude you from going to the transfer portal and getting a really good player who might want to come in and help. You can do that. But this has been the biggest position of need. It went from offensive line 3 years ago quickly into the secondary in what felt like a blink of an eye, but it takes a long time to dig out of it. I'm going to spend all next week telling you how much concern I have over LSU's corners in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Like, all next week. I'm on 10 hours and then an hour and a half pregame. That's most of what the discussion's going to be about. I'm not going to get into that right this second. But if you look at the position group as a whole, and you figure that you've got a staff that can develop, and at LSU you're pulling in enough athletes that you're going to hit on 4 or 5 of these, and maybe one's an All-American, you start to circle back. Again, this group that I just listed off at safety and corner does not have Patrick Peterson, the number 1 corner in the country. Denver Harris is the most highly thought of. It does not have Derek Stingley, the number 1 corner in the country. It does not have Kevin Tolliver, the number 1 corner in the country. It does not have Eli Ricks, the number 1 corner in the country. It does not have Jamal Adams, a 5-star safety, or Grant Delpit, a 5-star safety. Like that level of talent may not be here. It may not be. It doesn't look the same. But the depth is starting to get there from the right places, and then you count on your staff to develop. Just a little bit of a ray of sunshine on the defensive back group, which has been taking on hailstorms for 2 years now. So hopefully things work themselves out. Hopefully Xy Alexander can come back at some point this year. But Brian Kelly was on the teleconference this morning and said, look, he's going to miss some time. We'll just have to see. He's not going to give us any further information on that. And quite frankly, I'm not expecting him to, or don't need him to. Just get the team ready the best you can, and let's go to Tuscaloosa and see if you can't go win a football game. Plenty more to get to on LSU later on in the show. We'll hear more Brian Kelly sound. It's a What If Wednesday. We'll get to that up in 15 minutes. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, J.D. Piquel from On3 Sports with us every single Wednesday on The Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric announced to you yesterday they are making a second location. Been in business for 40 years, serving and installing Generac generators, and they've done such a great job and built such a great brand here in South Louisiana that they're going to open a location in Gonzales early in 2024. If you call that 225 number, you're still going to get Boudreaux's Electric right now, even though that location is not open. I tell you, they've had the same number for 40 years. They've got a new one, 225-300-9389, 225-300-9389. Get that Generac generator installed in your home today, so that you don't have to worry about power outages, whether that's during storm season or not. They're just a nuisance. You can prevent them with a Generac generator customized to your home. And every Generac generator from Boudreaux's Electric going to come with a free 10-year warranty. You're not going to beat that. A free 10-year warranty. Call that Gonzales location, 225-300-9389, 225-300-9389. It's my friends at Boudreaux's Electric.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on select new 23 Ford F-150 trucks. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of night and a comforting light. Playtime to bedtime. Our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Step inside an Infiniti QX50, and you'll find a suite of driver-focused features tailored to your tastes. But most of all, you'll find...
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR, presented by Pluckers. Russ Mitchell previewing the college football weekend. Adam Rittenberg from ESPN will be here, and former Saints coach Rick Venturi talking Colts. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving right along here, Wednesday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. This time every week we head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. That's where we find our guy J.D. Piquel, host of The Hard Count, part of the On3 network. You can subscribe to their channel on YouTube. J.D., how are you?
I'm good. I was trying to sign something your way. Did it get to you? I was trying to sign you what we were going to do in the show. Did that make it over there, or did it get stolen?
I don't have any signs. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, just checking. Yeah, just checking.
What's going on in Ann Arbor? Like, what do we do? What are we doing?
What is going on in college football? Like, it's one of those things that, like, the deeper we get into it, the weirder it gets. There's Venmo transactions. We had people from our Tennessee on 3 site VolQuest. There was a message board poster that was onto this like last year, talking about a friend who had another friend who like was a Michigan staffer that was going to go to a Tennessee Vandy game to get signed for college football playoff stuff. Like, the whole thing is so bizarre. I have a lot of thoughts on it as it pertains to like Michigan and how valid the last couple of years for them have been. Like, I think there's a couple of ways to look at it, and I think we're all in lockstep that, like, hey, Michigan, probably choose. Like, you don't buy 30-plus tickets to different Big Ten games if you don't have some kind of agenda. So, like, yeah, probably choose. Is that ever okay? No, never excusable. Like, there should absolutely be consequences. 100%. We're all in lockstep. And then I think that third step we take is where we lose some people and where we kind of have that fork in the road of agree to disagree. I don't think this changes Michigan drastically the last couple of years by nature of the fact that, like, I think Deion Sanders said it well, and it's kind of a cop-out answer, but I think it's true of, like, well, you still got to stop it. Like, you still have to actually play the game. So there's that part of it. I think it also, to say that Michigan wouldn't still be Michigan based on what happened the last couple of years, excuses the fact they've had some really good players. Like, they're going to have double-digit guys drafted this upcoming NFL draft, and I don't think that has anything to do with the sign. Third thing, then I'll get off my soapbox. When it comes to this whole sign stealing operation, I think there's this like assumption that they just drastically changed what was once a level playing field because they had this sign stealing advantage. If you're not stealing signs, you're going over the hour rule. If you're not going over the hour rule, you're breaking the recruiting calendar. Like, everybody is doing something. Michigan got caught, and that's never okay. You don't excuse it because the next guy was cheating. But I think to imagine that we somehow had this perfectly level playing field that Michigan just warped with getting signs from Connor Stallion, I think we're kidding ourselves. So wrong 100%. Michigan, in my mind, is still Michigan regardless of this whole situation.
My follow-up to Deion's quote, which was like, if they know it's a sweep, they still got to stop it. I would have been like, all right, so if you were in the NFL and I told you that the receiver, that Michael Irvin was going to run a stutter go, like that wouldn't have helped you? You wouldn't have gotten anything out of that? Like, I don't know how deep this sign stealing thing goes, but that seems like a stupid comment to me.
I get it. I mean, I think there's just so many facets to it. Like, I think there's my issue with it was there was this big thing on Twitter yesterday where there's this cut up from a local TV copy of like Michigan clearly looking to the sideline at Ohio State when they like checked through a play or whatever and they made a sign or whatever. What they didn't show was what happened in that play. And C.J. Stroud threw a touchdown pass to Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah.
So, like, it doesn't excuse the fact that it's cheating. It's still cheating. It's still wrong. But I think for us to assume that, like, it's going to drastically change Michigan to, like, an 8-4 football team if they don't have the sign, I have a hard time getting behind that. Like, I think we all agree it's wrong. Nobody's excusing it, or nobody should be excusing it. I think at that point you're kidding yourself. But I fall off the wagon where we get to the point of, well, Michigan's not any good without these signs. It's like, I probably would push back on that thought.
I think Aiden Hutchinson's still probably pretty good, just no matter if they have the signs or not. Seems to be a pretty good football player. So so the question I would have is, do you think that Jim Harbaugh will either be fired or will look towards the NFL or something because he's just been under the microscope for a few years and there's just stuff keeps popping up?
It feels like that would be the conventional thought. I almost wonder if this is a thing where he just sticks his heels in the ground even further. Like, he kind of strikes me as a guy who zigs whenever somebody else zags, you know? And so conventional wisdom would say, yeah, that's probably the easier thought. I wonder if he doesn't just go double middle fingers and say, you know what, you want me gone so bad, well, you better bring the SWAT team because I'm not leaving, and give us whatever sanctions you want. And the other thought, too, around this is this was a lot of information to get divulged at a very weird time. And I have a hard time believing that it was some staffer on the sideline saw something in the crowd and then was like, hey, we should look into that. Because it wasn't the same guy going to all the games. So it wasn't like we're having, this same guy pop up everywhere. That would feel very random and odd for us to tug on this one thread to unravel everything. Feels all like it's an inside job to me, which is a conspiracy theory. I can't prove it, but it feels like things haven't been cohesive between Harbaugh and co. in Michigan for a while there. I wonder if there was somebody that maybe wanted to turn this thing over and took it into their own hands. So that's not the question you asked. I wanted to make sure we got that thought out there, Hunt.
Interesting. It's certainly interesting, if nothing else. Staying in the Big Ten, was Saturday a referendum on James Franklin's Penn State program or just a football game?
What does referendum mean, Hunt? I don't know what referendum means.
Does it mean that does it mean a lot about their program? They just can't win big games?
Hey, I need all the help I can get. So I appreciate you defining that. Two, man, I was driving back. So we went to that game, got to see it in person, which was awesome.
Cool.
We drove from Nashville to Columbus. So driving back, had a lot of windshield time. And on the drive back, you get the chance to like kind of relive it all in your head and explore all the different what ifs. And like the what if I arrived at was, what if that game isn't played at Ohio State? What if it's played at a neutral site? What if it's played at State College? Is the result different from a win-loss standpoint for James Franklin? I don't think so, but I do think it's closer. To me, it was more of a sample size on where Drew Aller's at. Like, I think hopefully you take that game and learn a lot from it and say, okay, that's what elite college football defenses look like. All right, I gotta level up a little bit, and hopefully he'll be better for that. I think it says more about Ohio State than it does Penn State, to be honest with you. I think there was more pressure on Ohio State to win that game than there was Penn State. Penn State's window kind of started this year. I don't think it closes this year. I thought they should have done more to get the football to their playmakers. Like, there should have been more of an effort to feed those boys up front and let Nick Singleton and Katron Allen impact the game a little bit more. So I'm not selling stock on Penn State just yet, but it does definitely turn up the intensity knob for that game in State College when they welcome the Wolverines to town.
Feels like USC's national title hopes with Caleb Williams probably went away on Saturday with their loss to Utah, and his chance at a second straight Heisman is all but done. And what does that mean for USC?
Yeah, well, Caleb Williams should probably sit out the season. Wouldn't you agree, Hunt? He should probably just.
That's what the internet says. I just listen to the internet.
Another hobbit hole for us to jump down. No, I mean, I think for Lincoln Riley, like there's a point where, you can only make excuses so much for your defense, and I think Caleb Williams, to be clear, I think there was a team element to that loss against Utah. I mean, the offense, there were times for them to capitalize and kind of push the needle forward on what they were going to ask Utah to do offensively, and they got 3 instead of 7. They didn't convert a 2-point conversion that would have made it a 3-point game. And so a lot of things that probably, you look back at the offense and say, well, this is a team loss. But the overarching, macro problem here, the hole in the boat that's taking on the most water is absolutely the defense. And so I think there's going to have to be some really hard conversations this offseason. And we talked about it a lot this offseason of, hey, there's not really the excuse anymore of I didn't have the guys. Like Bear Alexander is a freak show. A lot of places probably wanted him to go play for them. We talk about all the acquisitions through the portal with Mason Cobb, and we could keep going here, but there's a much better talent level on defense to where it's hard to excuse what's happening on that side of the ball. So yeah, I think there absolutely has to be conversations. I think there will be conversations, and I'm excited to see how they respond because, like you said, there's not a whole lot more at a tier 1 level for them to compete for with the playoff and the Heisman, but still a conference title on the table, still a lot left for them when it comes to that New Year's Six Bowl conversation. So the response mechanism will be tested, and the defensive coordinator conversation will happen this offseason, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hard conversation at all. It's, hey, I keep having quarterbacks that win the Heisman and get invited to the New York and go first overall, and we give up 40 points a week. See ya. Thanks. That doesn't seem like a hard conversation to me. That would be pretty simple from where I'm sitting. Looking forward to this coming weekend. It's not the greatest slate ever, and I was grinding it trying to figure out what it was going to look like because LSU's off this weekend, and that means there's some football watching time, but it's not an awesome slate. I guess Oregon going to Salt Lake, which is where game day is headed, is probably the biggest game. In your opinion, does a 6-1 Utah team that wins a home game against Oregon enter significant national relevance even without Cam Rising? But I'm talking about the playoff here.
Yeah, I think they trend that way. I don't think they make any noise with being in the college football playoff top 4 right away, but it feels like the way that the Pac-12 is playing right now, whoever wins that conference, if they do it with 1 loss, that should be good enough to find yourself in the dance as long as we don't have 5 or 4 other undefeated conference champions. So it hasn't been pretty. I don't think Bryson Barnes is making anybody's All-American list at this point in the year, but the way they've done it, and it's very, very much so true to the Utah brand of ball we've seen for the last however many years. So you'd love to have Cam Rising out there. That probably would help the overall image nationally of Utah, but they keep finding ways to win games, and a win over Oregon would obviously do a lot for them in terms of their trend towards a Pac-12 title for the 3rd year in a row and a college football playoff berth.
South Carolina's getting boat raced almost every weekend. They're headed to College Station. If Spencer Rattler catches a heater and South Carolina goes to Kyle Field and wins, what does that mean in Aggie land?
Oh, that's a great question. It means that midnight yell would get a little bit louder in a negative sense. And I think it means that conversation around going to 8-4 again becomes a lot more realistic. Because that was kind of the uncomfortable, in-between space you talk about with Jimbo Fisher at the end of this year. If he's 7-5, you're probably saying, hey, man, I don't know what happens with that buyout at that point in time, but that's where it would become a little bit more of the writings on the wall feeling. 8-4 is kind of like that Groundhog Day that A&M feels like they've been living for a while. So at that point, it would definitely be uncomfortable to say the least, which is a novel answer. But it would the anxiety level as a whole would have to skyrocket. For either side of that, if you were to lose, not that Beamer's going to be on the hot seat anytime here soon, in my opinion, but with Jimbo, that would be a scenario you'd like to avoid because 8-4, they've done that more times than they'd care to remember.
Well, that would be their 4th loss, and they still have to go to Oxford to play Ole Miss and to Baton Rouge to play LSU. So just not a super comfortable spot there if they were to. I don't think they're going to lose because I think South Carolina is horrible. But Rattler is capable, and we saw that against Tennessee last year and have seen that in a couple games this year where he can throw for 320. They just can't do anything else. So a game in Kyle Field, I think they'll win it, but we shall see. Well, one more game I want to get your thoughts on. Do you give Florida any chance against Georgia in the cocktail party on Saturday?
As weird as it sounds, I do.
Yeah.
I don't think Georgia covers personally. I do think Georgia still wins the football game, but I think there is something to be said for this spot for Georgia and how human they've looked at times. We remember Georgia with the brand and the way they've won the last 2 national titles. They have some production back from those teams for sure, but they're new at a lot of places. And say what you want about the spot against Auburn and the game against a ranked Kentucky team. I think this will be the biggest spot for this team. And so I think their composure will really be tested in a different way than it has been. And also you throw into the mix that your best player, the Avenger who wore 19 for you playing tight end, he's no longer in the lineup in this one. So you ask a lot of guys to step up in a different way. And I mean, I'm curious to see if this game starts where Austin Armstrong and the defense just kind of swing for the chin, get an early turnover. The place is going crazy. Gary Danielson's losing on the mic, and they go up 7-0, and Florida's playing with a lead at that point. Like, what happens then if you're Carson Beck at a neutral site if you make that big mistake early? Can you rebound from it, and can you kind of have that composure? So, again, I still think they win, but Graham Mertz is playing well enough right now, too, to make this thing a real watchable football game. So I'm excited for it. We'll watch it either way. I know because you and I are both junkies, but yeah, it'll be a good one.
It'll be a lot of fun. JD Pickell, host of the Hard Count on 3. Go to YouTube, type in the Hard Count on 3, subscribe to their channel, and check out his content each and every day. JD, next week's LSU Bama week. We'll talk then.
Let's go. Appreciate you. Have a great one, man.
You too. That is JD Pickell from the Hard Count on 3. When we come back, What If Wednesday on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about Jersey Mike's. Still kind of lunchtime. You want a late lunch? Get by Jersey Mike's, especially our friends at Highway 30 in Gonzales near the new Heritage Shopping Center. Get the original Italian. Got all those meats, ham, prosciutto, capicola, salami, pepperoni with that provolone cheese. Get one of the cheesesteaks. Delicious, grilled fresh to order tender steak with peppers and onions, white American cheese. Awesome, awesome stuff for lunch or dinner. You can find them on DoorDash, ASAP, any of your delivery services. Jersey Mike's is there, and great for catering, as I've said. Headed out to a high school game on Friday, feeding the office for lunch. Got a tailgate party for LSU in a couple of weeks. Jersey Mike's is awesome for catering. And our friends on Highway 30 in Gonzales, that location going to give you 20% off your Hunt Palmer Show listener for your catering order. Download the Jersey Mike's app and get on by for one of those delicious, tasty subs. Jersey Mike, a sub above.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on select new 23 Ford F-150 trucks. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Running Bart's marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Board's marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is celebrating Ram Power Days with $15,000 off MSRP on new 23 1500 trucks, $15,000 off, and a 1 million mile warranty. Plus, we'll pay your trade-off regardless of what you owe. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family, a front-to-back boat service.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you.
While our Tigers don't play this weekend, we're still going to bring you some football this Saturday. It's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, where the Florida Gators will take on the Georgia Bulldogs at 2:30. To hear that game, tune in here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, moving right along. SEC Power Rankings an hour from right now, coming up at 2:30. Got some thoughts on the Saints and Colts coming up at the top of the hour, 2 o'clock. But first, let's play some What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right, first one here. What if the Saints signed Baker Mayfield instead of Derek Carr?
It would, I think the offensive production wouldn't be worse. It might not be any better, but it wouldn't be worse. And Mayfield's got 2 years left on his deal, I think, for about $8 a year. So talking about $16 million versus over $100. It would, honestly, I'll be honest, it would feel like a better spot for the organization to change a lot of things more quickly. You are tied to Derek Carr for longer than you want to be at this point. It doesn't mean that things can't change. Like, it could get better. It just feels bad. And again, this is a week-to-week deal that sometimes they can rattle off 4 in a row here in a bad division, and you go, okay, maybe they're starting to find something. I'm just not betting on that. There's nothing I've seen that makes me want to bet on that. Baker Mayfield would just give you some more flexibility. I don't know if the team would be any better, which is the ultimate goal, but it would give you more flexibility.
What if the Cubs could sign Aaron Norla or Cody Bellinger?
I think Aaron would be cheaper and a lower year number.
Bellinger plays every day.
Bellinger does play every day, and the Cubs have some pitching that I'm pretty comfortable with coming up.
Yeah.
I need that left-handed bat in there that's got MVP potential. He's the guy. So I would take Bellinger. Although, Aaron, I'll still take you. If you've made it back down to Baton Rouge, home, you are the offseason now. If you're here, if the Cubs pursue you, just sign on dotted line. Wrigley's really cool. You've been there before, obviously, but I think that you would enjoy it. Please sign with the Cubs. Thank you.
What if you make a hole-in-one in a scramble as the last player to hit?
I think that still counts. Like, if you ever made a hole-in-one, I made one in a scramble. But, like, it could change things. Like, if it was your own ball and the pin was tucked and you maybe wouldn't go at that because there's some water there, and you wanted to play a little bit more safely, and then somebody's already knocked it up on the green in your scramble team, so you're just firing at it, okay. So it would be an asterisk, but I would still count it. That would be fine. It's not like somebody, I hit it in the water, dropped, and then made it. Like, that's not, that I'm not giving you credit for that one. But in a scramble, I'd give you credit for the one.
What if Texas A&M loses to South Carolina?
We just had that talk with JD, and look, there are few more overused terms than must win in sports. Like, Sharif gave us must win like 2 weeks ago for the Saints. That's just incorrect. They could lose that one and win the NFC and get home field advantage probably if they won out. So it's not. And so technically it's not a must win for A&M because if they lost this game, it would be their 4th loss, and then they would theoretically end the season by winning in Oxford, beating LSU in Baton Rouge, and all of a sudden they would feel pretty good about where they were. So it's not. But if we're talking likelihoods and A&M loses to that awful South Carolina team at home, and then at what do we say, at best splits with Ole Miss and A&M, that's 7-5. I just don't think the big money Ags are going to sit back and watch Jimbo in year 6 go 7-5. I don't care the starting quarterback got hurt. It's just not good enough. 7-5 in year 6 is not good enough. I think they would lose it. So this, to me, is not a must win, but it becomes, in my opinion, likely that Jimbo Fisher is fired before Christmas if they lose on Saturday. That's what I think.
All right, moving on here. This one's from Twitter, Jason Austin. What if Brian Kelly continues to not be able to sign any 5-star recruits? Can we win a national championship with a bunch of 3 and 4 stars, with the top schools like Bama, Georgia, etc., continuing to stockpile 5 stars? Of course, that is LSU's class right now. They do not have any 5 stars.
That's correct. And I sense Jason's frustration. I saw in the tweet, it said if we've not been able to sign one single 5-star recruit. And I would say, yeah, you're right. There's not a 5-star in this current class. I would also suggest that Harold Perkins was a 5-star and Lance Hurd was a 5-star. I would suggest that Will Campbell was a 5-star. Deshaun Womack was a 5-star. So he is signing 5-star recruits. He just doesn't have one in this class yet. So the answer to your question is if Brian Kelly cannot add a single 5-star over his time at LSU, he will not win a national championship. If you don't have a single 5-star recruit on your roster, you're not going to win a national championship. I think Hester would bare knuckle fight me, which would go very, very poorly for me saying that. But it's true. Like, you can't win against Georgia and Bama and Ohio State and all those teams if you don't have any 5-stars. I'm not telling you all the 5-stars are great. All the 5-stars are All-Americans. All the 5-stars go in the first round. I'm not even telling you all the 5-stars start. LSU's got a 5-star, a former 5-star on this team that can't even get on the field. He's inactive most of the time. So I understand the sentiment. But the fact is, if you can't recruit at an elite level, you can't win. The good news is that Brian Kelly has reeled in top 10 classes at Notre Dame and LSU and has added multiple 5-stars in every class he's signed thus far. So, again, Jason, I appreciate your passion. However, it's okay. Brian Kelly's going to be okay. Let's see what happens when the dust settles in in December and February, and we'll see where things shake out.
All right, last one here. This one's from Twitter and Jay. What if the Saints dropped enough games to get a top 10 pick in next season's draft and DA gets replaced by someone like Eric Bieniemy? What position / who do you draft first? What kind of team / future could the Saints build?
It's a bad spot. You lose enough games to get a top 10 pick in next year's draft, Dennis Allen will be fired. I don't know if Eric Bieniemy is a good head coach or not. He's had a lot of interviews. He's run a lot of offenses, and he finally got out from Andy Reid's shadow, and we'll see where that brings his career.
Not doing great so far at the Commanders.
Right. It hurts when you lose Mahomes.
Yeah.
That's just a bit of an issue. Yeah. So I don't know anything about Eric Bieniemy as a head coach. I'm not going to pretend to tell you who's great or who's not. But the Saints are probably going to be in a position to draft a quarterback in the next couple of years. And to be honest with you, where this roster sits right now, where the ages of some of their best players are, where some of the contract situations are, and where you are in relation to the salary cap, I'm not going to get mad at them if they have the 9th pick in the draft and they take Drake May, or they take whoever's there at that spot. I don't know exactly how these guys are going to shake out, but we know that between Caleb Williams and Michael Penix and Drake May, and there are a number of quarterbacks that are very much in the mix to be high picks. And if one of those guys is there for you at 7 or 8, like, I'm not going to be mad about drafting them and tell them to sit for 2 years.
I mean, you could almost look at the Saints kind of be, and if they can get their coaching better, a better offensive play caller, they could be a 49ers-esque team where you get a guy like Brock Purdy, who's a young quarterback who he was the last pick of the draft. So if you go out and you can get a young quarterback like that and have a really good defense and great playmakers,
you're so far away roster-wise of where the.
I mean, obviously you don't have Bosa, but I mean, the defense is still really good.
It's good, but the offensive line's shot, and you've got to deal with that. And there's so many dollar signs floating around all over the place. Like, and it's not. It's a fair point. Like, that sometimes you can find a quarterback in the draft and move and plan around. And the best way to get good in the NFL is to get a good quarterback on a rookie deal. And the Saints have a mediocre quarterback on a veteran deal. That's the opposite of what you're looking for to get really good. So. Look, I wouldn't be mad at them all if they draft. They're not one 7th overall pick outside of quarterback at fixing this whole thing. So it's not like, oh well, if you lose enough games and fire Dennis Allen, then go draft a great rush end. Like, you're right back in it. You're not. You go draft a great right guard. No, that's not going to fix it. They're just in a bad way. So that was the point of my segment. I think that was either yesterday or Monday. It was like, man, this just feels like it's 3 years away, which is a sucky feeling. And I hope I'm wrong, but it feels like it is. So we'll see how the rest
All
of
right,
this
hold on.
thing
We've
shakes
got
out.
one more
Got
here.
one more?
Yes. This one's from Nookie on Twitter.
Okay.
What if Red Barons opened a pizza restaurant with delivery a mile from your house?
Well, it would be a bit of an issue.
Might gain a few pounds.
I do that as it is, but I'm a pizza addict. Like, I love Red Baron. I'll even, on the way out of a gas station, grab one of those Hunt's Brothers
Oh, yeah.
slices.
Those are pretty good, actually.
I mean, it's just pizza, and it's right there, and it's hot, and it's like, oh, it's like $3. Just give me that. It's really bad character trait there. But what are you gonna do? You know, sometimes you got to show a little willpower. There's just very little in my world. That's it for What If Wednesday. We'll take a time out, come back, and close out our number one with a narrative that I'll push back on just a little bit.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. Been telling you all fall about Marucci Sports, founded right here in a backyard shed in Baton Rouge, and all of a sudden you look up at the World Series, you're going to be seeing guys swinging Marucci lumber. It's not just a bat company. They are such a force in Louisiana. They've got their baseball performance lab that attracts talent to our state. It keeps elite talent in our state to work, which is a battle that we fight all the time. And they're great for tourism for our area here in Baton Rouge because of the Marucci World Series each and every July that brings thousands of youth players, coaches, parents right here to the capital city. Marucci Sports, certainly a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, we want to tell their story. LWCC.com/champions. Nominate a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is celebrating Ram Power Days with $15,000 off MSRP on new 23 1500 trucks, $15,000 off, and a 1 million mile warranty. Plus, we'll pay your trade off regardless of what you owe. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time to slip away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression with your customers.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
His name was Cain. He had a horse along the countryside.
Voisin inviting you to join me and the coaches Todd Black and Jimmy Roy for the next edition of Louisiana Prep Weekly. Our special guest will be Dutchtown head football coach Guy Mastretta and his staff. Live from Walk-Ons in Prairieville, it's Louisiana Prep Weekly, Wednesday night at 6 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Last night, a bunch of folks took to Twitter, as people do. And a lot of folks are yapping today about how terrible the World Series is. And look, I'm not going to tell you that the Diamondbacks are the most interesting team in America. I'm not going to tell you I could name a Diamondback as of the All-Star break. Corbin Carroll's been sensational, and the Diamondbacks slapped the Cubs around with 2 weeks to go in the season in Arizona, so I got pretty familiar with them. Zach Gallen's been awesome all year too, and the Rangers are a great story, but it's not exactly the most star-studded lineup. I love Seager. I think he's fantastic and a great player. I think he's the most marketable guy in all of baseball. I mean, I don't think a lot of novice fans know who that is, and their pitching staff is not one outside of the acquisition of Scherzer. And then DeGrom, who's been out. But it's not a star-studded World Series. It's not what the Yankees would be and the Dodgers would be, and the Braves have been the best team in baseball. It's not, but it is two huge markets. Phoenix and Dallas are top 10 markets. So this whole small market, though, that doesn't play. It's not Milwaukee and Kansas City. It's Dallas and Phoenix. But that's not the issue that I wanted to get to here. It is that this is for the local market that I'm speaking to, the LSU Saints fan base here. It is a talking point here in terms of expanding playoffs, because Major League Baseball did expand playoffs. The Diamondbacks were a very middling team much of the year. They played great late, and they overtook the Cubs, who were absolute grease fire, and they made the World Series. And by definition of this format that we have, they deserve to be in the World Series, certainly. Now, I could look at this and read this disgusting tweet from Chris Felica last night that said the Cubs lost 15 of 22 down the stretch. They were 1-6 against Arizona, including 0-4 in extra innings. 2 of those were against Arizona. If one of those goes differently, Arizona isn't even in the playoffs. Nearly impossible to think this team would be in the World Series. Thanks to the Cubs for going 7-15 down the stretch, losing 4 of those games in extra innings and going 1-6 against Arizona to find a way to miss by 1 game. That was awesome. But Arizona did not prove itself to be one of the best teams in baseball over the course of a season. And that's what people love about college football, is that you really have to be perfect, and that makes every regular season game more interesting. By now, if you listen to me a lot, you know my feelings on that. I would rather compromise the fever pitch that these regular season games have to be played under, move that fever pitch into the postseason where more teams are involved, therefore letting more people play meaningful games later into the season. That's always been my contention. And I think the Diamondbacks coming back to win 4 out of 5 against Philadelphia is interesting. And I think the Diamondbacks having interesting baseball in September, even though they have no chance to overtake the Dodgers, who are a million times more accomplished than them and have had a better season than them, allowing them to stay engaged, to stay relevant, for their fans to stay interested, and for them to get a chance in a 3-game series in the first round to advance and move forward, is a better thing for the sport. And I feel the same way about college football. Let the 2 lost teams play meaningful games in November and December. Don't say, well, yeah, lost that second game on September the 18th. See you next Labor Day. I get that you're disadvantaging the teams that accomplish the most during the regular season. I fully understand it, and I understand why people don't like that. I just know that if I'm going to sacrifice that advantage or the interest of 85, 95% of the sport, I'm going to sacrifice the advantage that the great team has and make them earn it in the postseason and allow the rest of the sport to stay interested and play meaningful games and get into the playoffs, and let's see what happens. The best postseason tournament we all like the most is the one that de-incentivizes the regular season the most. It's March Madness. And there may be a faction of you out there that hate March Madness and don't want anything to do with it and think it's a terrible way to crown a champion. And you're certainly entitled to that opinion. I think it's really fun. But we've got a World Series that doesn't involve the Braves, who are the best team in baseball. It does not involve the Dodgers, who were fantastic. It does not involve the Rays, who were exceptional all year, and the Orioles, who had an explosive year and won 100 games. We don't have any of those teams. We've got teams that struggled at times, but found their way. They played meaningful baseball in September. They played electrifying baseball in October, and here we have it. Does baseball wish it was the Yankees and Dodgers? Sure. But I'm okay with this, and I'm going to watch the World Series, and I'm excited for college football to expand their playoff because I want more teams playing relevant games late in the season. And that's what you get, and that's what Major League Baseball got this year. That's it for hour number 1 here on the Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half the work week in that rearview mirror, and we come back on the other side. We'll have some thoughts on the Saints, SEC Power Rankings in 35 minutes. Hunt Palmer Show.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. After missing a handful of practices and the preseason finale due to a personal matter, guard James Harden rejoined the 76ers today, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. He has been ruled out of tomorrow's season opener in Milwaukee. Harden's been frustrated for months. His wish to be traded to the Clippers has not been granted. The Sixers playing with fire here, believes ESPN's Brian Windhorst.
Their risk was that they didn't get James Harden into a situation where they extended, where they could get him taken care of. When they let that get to a hostile place, they bring Joel Embiid's future into question. Joel has been absolutely playing the good Boy Scout. He is saying all the right things. He doesn't want to make it look like he's taking a side against Harden or taking a side with the team or against the team.
Ryan Windhorst on Unsportsmanlike. NBA opening week doubleheader tonight on ESPN. Celtics-Knicks lead things off at 7 Eastern. Then the top overall pick in this year's draft, the Spurs' Victor Wembanyama, makes his regular season debut against the Mavericks, 9:30 Eastern ESPN. Browns quarterback P.J. Walker starts Sunday against the Seahawks in place of the injured Deshaun Watson.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman, and coming up Thursday, the World Series is all set. I'll go around the bases and tell you what you need to watch for. It's on Sportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half the work week in the rear view mirror. Thanks for hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. SEC football power rankings coming your way in 30 minutes. Had some shakeups. Not drastic. I think we've kind of honed in on where things need to be. But we had a team tumble that I've just seen enough of. And a little bit of a flip-flop in the middle there at a certain spot, too. We'll get to it at 2:30. Let's talk Saints and Colts. Saints and Colts on Sunday from Lucas Oil in Indianapolis. And at this point, the Saints have had the mini-bye to hopefully get a little healthier, especially on the offensive line, and work on some things. I've berated the Saints up and down for 2 weeks now after the loss in Houston and the Thursday night performance against the Jaguars. I'm not going to do that here. I'm not. I'm just gonna go through some statistics, play a little sound, go through some of my feelings as the Saints head up to Indy to play this football game, because it's time to turn the page and look towards it. And Indianapolis' defense, any way you want to slice it, has not been great. There are some statistical trends that are a little bit skewed with them, but overall, it's not a great team. It's a team that is 3-4 on the season, 3-4 on the year. They lost to the opener to the Jaguars, beat the Texans, and they won at the Ravens in overtime. They lost an overtime game to the Rams. They beat the Titans, and then they've lost a couple in a row to the Jaguars and Browns. So that's kind of where they sit. But when you look at them statistically ranked against the rest of the league, and I think now that we've got 6-7 week sample size, we've kind of got enough to kind of look at who you are. And this is a Colts defense that's 22nd in the league in total defense. They're 19th in the league in passing defense. They're 21st in the league in rushing defense. They are 30th in the NFL in scoring defense. They haven't been good. All of those were 19th or worse in the league. Total defense, passing defense, rushing defense, scoring defense. They're 23rd in red zone defense too. It's not a great defense. Now, when you look at the scoring defense and look at especially the last 2 weeks, because I dove into those stats and kind of looked at something and I went, these stats for the opposing offense aren't that great. How are they scoring so many points? Well, the Jaguars had a 22-yard touchdown drive that they got off of short field. They had 2 field goal drives that were less than 20 yards where they got a short field. So right there is 13 points that the Colts defense wasn't directly responsible for. And then the Browns did have a defensive score in a game where they scored 39 points. So Even so, giving up 32 is not great, but you gave up a defensive score in that game. But the statistics still bear themselves out. And the one little anomaly, and one thing that I look at that the Colts are decent at in terms of their defense, is they're good on third down. They're 8th in the NFL. And all that tells me is if you're 19th or worse in all these other categories, and you're 8th in third down defense, teams aren't even getting to third down much on you. They're just chewing up yards. That's what that stat says. I'm sure I could go to a play-by-play basis and break down the all-22 and come up with a little more nuanced statistical analysis than that. But if you're 30th in the league in scoring defense, you're 22nd in total D, you're 23rd in stopping teams in the red zone from scoring, and you're 8th in third down defense, you're probably not dealing with a lot of third downs. Because if you were dealing with a lot of third downs and you were good at it, then folks wouldn't exactly be putting up the points and yards that they have. So here come the black and gold. They're coming off a mini bye. Should be a little healthier. Derek Carr is another week removed from the AC sprain. You would think that potentially you could get Ryan Ramczyk back. Kamara's very lightly used at this point. Should be in good shape. You ought to go in there and put up a better fight than what you've been doing. That's my thought. We look at the Saints to this point. They're 22nd in rushing yards per game. They're 26th in rushing yards per carry. Again, this is lining up with what the Colts are. It's just not very good. You can say, well, are they really running the ball that much? Yeah. They're 11th in the league in rushing attempts per game. This is what it's going to boil down to me in this game. The Saints have to find a way to run the football. Get your guys who are first and second round picks up front, who've had 10 days to recover, had 10 days to game plan, to line up and knock Indianapolis off the football some and let Alvin Kamara go to work. That makes Derek Carr's life easier. We know that needs to happen. That puts you in more advantageous opportunities on third down, which we know has been an issue. And there is no better way to score in the red zone than to run the football. Line up, be physical, hat on a hat, and run it. And if you can't line up and do it with Derek Carr under center and Kamara behind him, then put Taysom Hill in. They've actually had some success with him. The offense has been anemic the vast majority of this season. But some of the bright spots have been with Taysom Hill out there. He's physical. He's fast. He gives you a numbers advantage. I'm almost at the point where I want to throw out the need to be traditional and just be a little bit more non-traditional and go with some Taysom Hill. We ranted and raved and yelled and screamed for Sean Payton to chill out with the Taysom Hill. You got Breeze. Chill out with Taysom. Quit trying to do things that don't need to happen. Let 9 go to work. Well, 9 can't go to work for you on Sunday. Taysom can, okay? This is not a great Indianapolis defense. They're playing with a backup quarterback who was good last week. But it's an opportunity to get right, I think. And if the Saints don't do that on Sunday, it's just another mark against them and drives hope further from sight. Again, I've ranted and raved about this team for 2 weeks now. I've gone all the way up to the organizational structure yesterday. I'm just trying to boil this thing down to 60 minutes. You're playing an average team on the road with some extra time to prepare. And we've been talking about this talent and that talent here, there, and some guys, some weapons that the Saints have. It's time to use some of them because the point totals that the Colts have given up, 39 to the Browns, 37 to the Jags. Titans only scored 16. But 29 to the Rams. Ravens only scored 22. 19, actually. Texans, 20. Jags, 31. they've given up points. And I think a lot of folks will look at this game and they'll look at the Colts with a backup quarterback, kind of a one-dimensional offense, and wants to go Jonathan Taylor. And they'll want to break down that matchup against the Saints defense. I kind of know what the Saints defense is. I see an opportunity for the offense here. It's time for them to seize it. And Dennis Allen said earlier this week when he was with the media, like, hey, we're making some strides.
I think we've been closer in the last couple of weeks. And I think, we've been better up front, and yet I think we have to be better up front. Look, I think we're closer, but we need to start, seeing some better results.
I think that was a perfectly fair soundbite from Coach Allen. I think they were a little bit better up front, even though it was a hodgepodge unit last Thursday. And they need to still be better than that. And it's got to start now with the Saints and Indianapolis coming up on Sunday. The Baton Rouge Zydeco take to the ice for the first time when they face off with the Columbus River Dragons Thursday, October the 26th. Single game tickets start at just $10. You can get them online at RaisingCanesRiverCenter.com or through Ticketmaster. Register for a chance to win free Baton Rouge Zydeco tickets from us at 1045ESPN.com. Zydeco in action tomorrow. Y'all go check that out downtown. When we come back, we'll hear from Brian Kelly. He has met with the media a couple of times on the bye week. Won't hear from him again until Monday. So we'll hear some of the things he had to say about his team getting ready for Alabama. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Maybe you got an awesome interest rate, locked it in a couple of years ago, and happy with the house, but not love it. But it's not a great time to move. We're going to keep chipping away at this loan, but we're going to stay here. Why don't you redesign and remodel your bathroom and closet? Awesome opportunity to do that with David Duvall and his team, and they've got financing options available to you. You can do a full-scale remodel of your bathroom. Soup to nuts, David Duvall and his team will handle all of it. Change your entire layout. Their licensed contractor will be the only call you make. You don't have to call 4 different people to try to handle different facets of it. David Duvall and his team will do the entire thing. Maybe it's something simple, tub-to-shower conversion. Take that tub out that you don't ever use, put in a gorgeous new glass walk-in shower, changes the whole aesthetic of your bathroom, changes the functionality of your bathroom. David Duvall and his team can do it, but you won't know what they can do for you unless you go to onebathandclosets.com and click the button for that free consultation. Get David Duvall and his team out. They'll show you what they can do, and then they'll do it for you. And I can promise you this, they'll do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Check out the testimonials. Check out the pictures of their great work. Get that free consultation at onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
His name was Cain. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Scooncha fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Running Boards Marketing can help you get their attention. Imagine your brand's message on a giant LED billboard truck that can't be skipped and is nearly impossible to ignore. Running Boards Marketing is the leader in effective and affordable advertising on digital mobile billboards, which are 2 times more effective than traditional billboards. With a 97% recall rate, you'll leave a lasting impression.
For a Football Friday on Off the Bench as we preview the weekend, including Saints versus Colts and LSU versus the bye week. Plus, we put together our weekly pontoon parlay and we recap the Pelicans season opener. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Brian Kelly's birthday today. I didn't know that, but I was listening to the SEC teleconference earlier today, and you got some well wishes from Chuck Dunlap, who's the Director of Communications for the Southeastern Conference, and then a bunch of the media who called in were wishing him happy birthday. Not sure what he's doing to celebrate, probably watching some film and making some recruiting calls if I had to guess, but maybe some cake for Coach Kelly tonight as they enter the bye week, and he grows the candles on the cake by 1. Kelly was on the teleconference this morning and talked about the bye week preparation to this point.
As we, go into active rest this week, working on some, details that we need to get better at this week. Practice yesterday and today will be in strength and conditioning mode on Thursday, Friday, and then we'll give the guys the weekend off as we prepare for a great Alabama football team.
Active rest. I don't do much active rest. When we're resting, there's some resting going on, but I don't have to play Alabama coming up in 10 or 11 days. So active rest for the team this week as they will practice a little bit, do some self-correction, a little bit of install for Alabama. They'll do some strength and conditioning stuff over the end of the week, and then they'll head on home for the weekend and come on back Sunday and Monday for school and to get ready for Alabama. But there are some guys that we wanted to hear some updates on in terms of where they are with joining the team after missing the game against Army, and one's Emory Jones.
Yeah, he'll be available. He's back, with our team. He will practice today, and so we expect him to be a full participant in our practice on Monday.
That's obviously very good to hear. Based on the injury report on the defensive side of the ball and the availability report on the defensive side of the ball and where LSU's headed next Saturday, LSU needs every single piston in the engine absolutely firing at optimum levels on offense. Okay? We'll get to this next week. I think LSU's going to score 45 points to win the game. So if you can get your right tackle back and not put a true freshman out there in Tuscaloosa, I would very much advise that. So very, very good news to hear that Emory Jones is on track to return to practice this week, and certainly we would think would be able to practice next week and play in the game. So that was one thing I certainly wanted to point out. Now, as I just mentioned, things aren't as peachy on the defensive side of the ball, and Brian Kelly was asked, we know that Deuce Chestnut and Denver Harris are not available. They're inactive, whatever the case may be. What do they got to do to get active?
There's, internal things that need to be accomplished that I really can't discuss. And, they're not with us right now, so I prefer to just talk about guys that are with us.
That, to me, I'm just reading tea leaves here. No sources, no inside information, no breaking news, nothing that's being reported. I'm just reading tea leaves and guessing stuff over here from the chair with the microphone in front of it. That does not sound like a couple of guys who are playing football for LSU next week in Tuscaloosa. They're not available. They're not with us right now. They're enrolled in school, and I'd prefer to talk about other guys. It would surprise me personally if Brian Kelly went to the podium on Monday after doing this on Wednesday. You got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, guys are away, and he comes to the podium on Monday and says, hey, by the way, Deuce and Denver are back. It's great. They accomplished everything we needed over the last 4 days, and they're ready to play. I have my doubts, quite frankly. So that's going to put you in a bind in the secondary. Not that it hasn't for the last month, but that's just the reality of the situation at this point. So that's kind of an update on where things are. He talked about Zy Alexander as well, and Mekhi Wingo said both would quote-unquote miss some time. There's just not a real update there. All it would be would just playing you some more sound that didn't give you much information, because they're not going to give you a lot of information as we enter into a bye week. So what do they use in the bye week in terms of preparation for Alabama?
We're not a finished product. There's many things that we have to work on from a technical and a tactical standpoint. Physically, we'll also give our guys a chance to get in the weight room this week with an extra weight training day, and obviously physically recover, from a very, tough stretch of 8 games, 2/3 of our season complete. So, the preparation for us has always been the physical, the technical, tactical, and then, there's a bit of a mental rest too, where you can reset and really now focus on the last third of the season.
The bye week for those of us in the media, not super awesome. We're kind of looking for some angles to talk about it. Kind of waste of your time to start breaking down X's and O's of LSU and Alabama 12 days before they play. But I've talked to players that I've worked with, and y'all know the names by now. It's Jeremy here, and it's Brandon Taylor, Marlon Favorite, Hester, T-Bob. And we're around a lot of former players, and they all talk about how great the bye week can be for a team. It's just great to mentally decompress and not have to worry about grinding on game plan and studying tape and all that kind of stuff. You do it, and I'm sure Jaden Daniels is still in there at 5:30 in the morning getting things done, but just not quite the sense of urgency that you've got to have on a quick turnaround. You can allow yourself to kind of decompress a little bit, not popping pads in practice. Not that they do a ton of that during the week, but they do, Tuesday and Wednesday are your tougher days, and I'm sure they'll kind of tone that down a notch, and then you certainly don't have to go through the rigors of what Saturday would be. And so you put your team in the best position that it can possibly be for the game against Alabama. It's wild to me, the other part of that soundbite, that we're 2/3 way done with this thing. Football season just goes so quickly. In this business, there's a structure to what it is. It's Monday, the Brian Kelly press luncheon, and you've got your guests that you always have. It's Wednesday with the teleconference, and then you got the coaches show on Thursday, and I do my interview with the coach. Like, there's some things that happen every single day, every single week during football season, and that just turns it into something that goes real quickly because you get into that routine and everything just flows. So it's wild that we're that far away. I can remember talking about Florida State, and then we look up and you're at Halloween. So the question is, what are the vibes like at practice this week as you have a little bit of a different feel as opposed to playing on a Saturday?
We're very intentional about our work. As you know, we're certainly a football team that needs to improve. We've identified a number of areas that, we have to get better at. There are some players that are going to get an opportunity to compete that have not played a lot of football. So there's a lot of work over these next couple of days that our team needs these practice days, and we're taking full advantage. Now, we understand that, you need some active recovery as well. But clearly, this is not a, check the box, run around, camp 7-on-7. I mean, we need to get better.
I think that soundbite, and again, this is just me reading tea leaves and context clues. There are some guys that haven't played a lot of football that have got to improve. That, to me, sounds like LaTerrence Welsh. It sounds like Ashton Stamps. It sounds like Jeremiah Hughes. It sounds like Sage Ryan's got to jump over there at corner. Like, I think the hardest working group this week has got to be the youth in the secondary that have not played. And it would not surprise me at all if there were some things that they did this week that are out of the ordinary for a regular game week, because they've got to get ready for Alabama, and they have not played a lot. Whether they're coming back off of injury or whether they weren't asked to play a ton early in the season, you can give Will Campbell and Charles Turner some snaps off this week. Jaden Daniels can put some flip-flops on for some of practice, if we're being honest. You don't have to really, really rep some of the guys who have played a ton of football all year, who just need some mental reps, some rest and recovery, some weightlifting, and some film study. But those guys in the secondary that have not played a lot, they need reps. They need to be out there learning as much as they possibly can. I give LSU a real chance to go to Tuscaloosa and score a significant amount of points. Whether or not LSU wins this game is probably going to hinge on how many stops LSU can get. And that's going to fall eventually back onto the secondary. We'll see what Mekhi Wingo's status is. I don't know. We'll see what Denver Harris's status is. I don't know. As far as Zy Alexander goes, I'm not expecting much. As far as Deuce Chestnut goes, I'm not expecting much. But you got to get those other guys ready to go. And I think this is a week when you've got some extra time that those guys are going to have to get as many reps and mental reps and communication reps and understanding assignments. You're not going to teach them to cover Jermaine Burton over a week. You can teach them exactly where to be and what the calls are going to generally be so that they're in position at least to make a play. That's all I can ask this coaching staff to have these guys ready to do, is to have these guys in position. You've got 2 weeks to know what your personnel is going to be. I think they know what their personnel is going to be in Tuscaloosa. They know whether or not Denver Harris is playing in that game. They know whether or not Zy Alexander is going to play in that game. We guess. They know. You got to get some of those other corners ready to roll. And it starts this week, and it's got to continue through the weekend and into to game week next week, which we are very, very much looking forward to. Still got to get to my SEC football power rankings, but first let me tell you about the first ever Baton Rouge Kids on the Catwalk Dream Come True fashion show. It is coming up tomorrow at the Country Club of Louisiana. Dream Kids are going to be walking down the catwalk with local dignitaries as their escorts. That's Flynn Foster. That's Richard Condon. Those two included. Mission includes dinner and an open bar. There's also going to be live and silent auctions featuring celebrity auctioneer T-Bob Hebert. So purchase your tickets or tables online at dctofla.com. Should be an awesome event tomorrow night at CCL. And look, this is a wonderful cause that we love supporting here at Guarantee to help out children in Louisiana battling illness, help their family, and help some dreams come true. Whether it's getting a dog for the family, whether it's a trip to Disney World, which happens all the time. We try to make as many of those dreams come true as we possibly can here at Guarantee, and we certainly appreciate your help. So if you have the means and are interested in buying a table or getting your tickets, dctofla.com is where you can certainly find those. All right, we'll take a time out and come back with those power rankings next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Jump into the NBA action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Pels play tonight. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers get 3 months of NBA League Pass, courtesy of FanDuel, when they place a $5 bet on the NBA. I had some friends that were complaining today about how they were figuring out watching the Pels. Well, place a $5 bet on FanDuel, and you can get 3 months of NBA League Pass. That way you can watch all the action as you bet on everything from the point spreads to player props. Best of all, you get paid on your winnings instantly. So don't miss your chance to get $200 in bonus bets plus 3 months of NBA League Pass. Just visit FanDuel.com/1045ESPN and tip off the NBA season right. FanDuel, official partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. New customer offer. First online real money wager only. Refund issues no withdrawable bonus bet that expires in 7 days. All customer offer. $5 NBA wager required. Limit 1 pass per customer across both offers. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See full terms for both offers at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. If you're somebody who knows the gaming problem wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP. NBA League Pass. Local blackout restrictions apply.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti.
Charles Handgriff, join us for the Thursday edition of Live at Lunch. We're at Jolie Pearl and Town Square Pizza, downtown Baton Rouge. Paul Nolan is with us, Dwayne Colucci, and Matt Humans. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I'm excited to go back to the first week of the year. We're going to do this in December after the SEC Championship game is played and see what my initial power rankings were. I got a feeling they're going to be a little wonky. I think Missouri was 13th. That's changed a touch. I think there are a few teams that have done things that I didn't expect. I whiffed on Mississippi State too. I think it was probably awful, but that's to be expected. Beauty of the segment. Let's get into the SEC Power Rankings for this week. Had some changes, but most of those changes are down towards the bottom of the Power Rankings. Had a little tumble session for one team. All right, let's get to it. Number one is in the same spot it was last week. That is the Georgia Bulldogs, who are 7-0 and 4-0 coming off of their bye. Georgia is second in the SEC in scoring offense and passing offense, but that's not really against the quote-unquote meat of their schedule. They still do have some reasonable opponents left. I think when we looked at Georgia's schedule, I don't think anybody thought Missouri was any good at all. And maybe Georgia beats them by 50. I don't know. But they do have to play Missouri after Florida. They do have to play Ole Miss. That's in Athens as well. And they got to go to Tennessee. So that's the toughest piece of their schedule. It's just to come. So I still think Georgia's the best team in the league, but they have some more tests coming in front of them. Number two, I've got Bama. They're 7-1, 5-0 in league play. Did you know that Jalen Milroe was second in the SEC in QBR? He's also second in the SEC in yards per attempt. He's 7th in yards per game, so he's not throwing it as much, which we expected, but he's making them count when he does. And Alabama against the Southeastern Conference, second in the league in scoring defense and third in total defense. That's what you would expect. So this is the identity of what we all thought Alabama would be. A running football team that took some shots and played really good defense. And they didn't play really good defense against Texas, and Milroe looked awful for a month. He's been better, and now they're winning games. Now they're close. They're closer than we thought in College Station, closer than we thought against Arkansas, but they're winning. I do still have Ole Miss at 3, same as last week. They really haven't been that impressive. I mean, Bama held them to 10 and pretty much stuffed them in a locker. They allowed 49 points to LSU, and they beat Arkansas and they beat Auburn both by 7 points. But at this point, there are flaws everywhere. So I'm just going to go with Ole Miss because they're a little more average across the board than LSU, who's just got such a massive dichotomy between its offense and defense. And that's where if I have LSU at 4, same as last week. It's the best offense probably in college football. But I can't trust that defense, and now I got injuries, Wingo, Alexander. Like, it's getting worse in that perspective, so I'm not going to take the Army win and vault LSU up a peg. I've still got them at 4. Missouri was at 5 last week. Missouri is at 5 this week. They are 7-1 and 3-1. All right, Missouri, here's the deal with Mizzou. You've passed your mid-tier SEC East test. You won at Kentucky. You beat South Carolina. That's Vanderbilt's down by themselves, and then there's a middle tier, and Missouri passed that test. So now, do they pass the test towards the top of the East? The programs that should be winning the East. They're at Georgia. They play Tennessee and Columbia. They've got Florida. All those games are in a row. Can you elevate yourself? We'll see. I've got them as the second best team in the East right now. Tennessee, I had at 6 last week. They go to Tuscaloosa and lose. I have them at 6 again this week. That did not dissuade me from this spot. They're 5-2, 2-2. Look, they beat Florida and Bama last year, got some monkeys off their back. Well, now they're back to square one because they lost to those two teams this year. But they do have the number 3 scoring defense in the conference. They do have the number 4 total defense in the conference. They have the best rushing offense in the conference. Defensive line is good. They're just not as good at quarterback and wide receiver, and that has hurt them significantly. But they did pack a punch against Alabama in the first half. They fell apart in the second half. But, again, we've got flaws everywhere here. I've got LSU 2 rungs above Tennessee, and they can't stop a nosebleed. So I've got the Vols at 6. Last week I had A&M at 7. I've kept them at 7. My 1 through 7 did not change from last week. That is how I see the top of the conference. A&M at 7. They're 4-3, 2-2 in league play. They've got the number 9 total defense in the nation. Top 10 total D in the country. They are number 2 in the nation in sacks and tackles for loss. Like, that's the real strength of their team. But they can't score in the second half. This is the same thing I told you last week entering their bye week. 3 points in the second half against Arkansas, 3 points in the second half against Alabama, 3 points in the second half against Tennessee. That is coaching, in my opinion. They're not doing a good enough job, and that's probably not shocking to anybody. But that's my top 7. It has not changed. This group was knocking on the door of the top 7, but I decided to pump the brakes and wait, and you'll see why. Florida's number 8. That's up a spot from last week. They're 3-1 in league play, 5-2 overall. They played Vandy and South Carolina the last 2 weeks, okay? That's a nice place to start. They scored 38 on Vandy and 41 on South Carolina. Graham Mertz, by the way, if you haven't been watching, statistically, he's been brilliant the last 2 games. That doesn't make me feel great about them coming to Tiger Stadium, by the way, but we'll talk about that later. He is completing 71% of his throws over the last 2 weeks, 60 out of 84, for 338 yards per game, 6 touchdowns, and no picks. That's pretty salty. 71% for 338 a game, 6 touchdowns, no picks against South Carolina and Vandy. Now, South Carolina and Vandy, not good, but that was impressive. Here's what's coming for Florida, and you already know it. Georgia and Jacksonville, going to Fayetteville, going to playing Arkansas at home, at LSU, at Missouri, and then Florida State. That's where the rubber meets the road for Billy Napier. And if Graham Mertz is really playing this well, and then you can turn around and hand it off to those 2 running backs, you might have a chance to win some games down the stretch that we didn't think necessarily they would win. I'm not ready to pull the trigger just because they beat up on Vanderbilt and South Carolina, but they are getting better, I think. And Kentucky, the bottom's kind of falling out here. I think I had them up at 3 or 4 a couple of weeks ago. They're down to 9. They're 2-2 in league play, 5-2 overall. They gave up 89 points in losses to Georgia and Missouri. 89 points. That is, for you math majors out there, almost 90 in 2 games. This is going to be another 8-4, 7-5, because that's just what Kentucky is. Give Stoops a raise. But that's just what Kentucky is. They're not going to knock off anybody really good, and they're going to win 8 or 9, 7, 8, 9. And that's just what Kentucky is. So that's where they'll be. Number 10 is up 2 spots because teams just fell back behind them, not because they're doing anything right. Auburn, I've got at 10. They're 3-4. They're 0-4 in league play. I've got Auburn at 10 here, and you know the teams that I haven't gotten to. I think Freeze is the best coach left on the board here, and I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Good job playing Georgia tight. You've lost 4 straight games. This is nothing Auburn did to get them to 10. But I think Freeze is good, and I'm so down on everybody on the rest of this list that I'm going Auburn at number 10. I got Mississippi State up 2 spots to number 11. They've been 13 for a few weeks, but they did get a win. Don't get cocky, Mississippi State. You scored 7 points, okay? You scored 7. So your offense is still atrocious. Your team's pretty bad, to be quite frank. But you did just win a game. And this is, again, not that Auburn deserves to be propped up to 10 or that Mississippi State deserves to be propped up to 11. They don't. But I can't do anything more with these last 3 teams who have just been awful. I've got South Carolina at 12 now. That's down a spot for them. I give you these stats every week, but I'm just a little shocked. There's just no reason that South Carolina should be 13th in the SEC in scoring offense, next to last. 13th in the SEC in run defense, next to last. 14th in pass defense. 14th in total D. It's just terrible. They're next to last or last in like 7 categories. And not like obscure ones. Like kickoff return yardage or something. No, in all the important stats, they're the worst in the league, or Vanderbilt is. That's just pathetic. There's no reason in year 3 under Shane Beamer that South Carolina should just be this terrible. But they're better than 2 teams at this point. Arkansas, poor effort. Down to 13. That's a 3-spot fall from last week. 2-6 on the year, 0-5 in league play. The offense finally just broke. It just broke. And you would not think that an offense that had KJ Jefferson back and Rocket Sanders back and Sam Pittman as an offensive line coach would just fall apart. And Sam Pittman said on the teleconference today, we lost our spirit. That essentially to me is almost as bad as we quit on Saturday. And there was nothing I could do but fire the offensive coordinator and have the higher-ups pay him $3.7 million to get out of the office. But that's what they had to do. So now the question for Sam Pittman is, can he save the program in the next 5 weeks? Because the season's over. You're not going to get to bowl eligibility, which doesn't matter anymore. You're shot. Everything you set out to do, you can't get done. But can you save the program by winning a couple of games down the stretch? And I actually heard last night on Chuck Oliver's show when I was driving to do trivia at Pluckers, they had Trey Biddy on, who covers Arkansas for 24/7. And they were talking about whether or not they should keep Sam Pittman because the state of Arkansas has produced 4 4-stars this year, and they want to keep those guys committed. So they're thinking about, what do we do with the program? There's 4 4-stars in state. Can we possibly make a change here and maybe lose the 4-stars? That's what you're dealing with in the state north of us. Whether or not to blow up the program based on 4 4-stars in the state. Sometimes it's nice to not have to worry about some of that stuff. And then number 14 is Vanderbilt. What do you want me to do? They're 2-6, they're 0-4, and they're not good. So I don't have a lot to add to Vanderbilt. So my top 7 were the same. Georgia 1, Bama 2, Ole Miss 3, LSU 4. Missouri comes in at 5, then Tennessee 6, and A&M at 7. Florida, I've got at 8. I think they may be moving upward in trajectory. Kentucky is at 9. Auburn moves up 2 spots. Didn't deserve it, but they did. To number 10. Mississippi State moves up 2 spots to 11, and that's because South Carolina fell back to 12, and Arkansas tumbled down all the way to 13 in front of Vanderbilt. That is your SEC football power rankings for this week. Whether you agree or disagree, they're correct. Congrats to Kyle Mack. Kyle's our Week 8 winner in the 2023 Twin Peaks College Football Pick'em Contest. He wins a Twin Peaks gift card. Don't forget to make your picks for Week 9 by noon tomorrow. That's Thursday. Play the 2023 Twin Peaks College Football Pick'em today at 1045ESPN.com. Back to close it out next. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. Our listeners fire up their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Voisin inviting you to join me and the coaches Todd Black and Jimmy Roy for the next edition of Louisiana Prep Weekly. Our special guest will be Dutchtown head football coach Guy Mastretta and his staff. Live from Walk-Ons in Prairieville, it's Louisiana Prep Weekly, Wednesday night at 6 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, tomorrow, my last show of the week. I'll be out on Friday the bye week. I generally try to get out and have a fun weekend. We're going to go play some golf with the boys down at the Bow and get a steak and maybe watch a little football on Saturday. So I'll be out on Friday. Tomorrow will be my last show of the week. So I'll give you my SEC picks against the spread. Tomorrow we'll always have Luke Johnson on Thursdays, so he'll join us to talk about the Saints. Matt McMahon literally meeting with the media right now, so we'll have some sound from him getting you ready for basketball season as well. Lots to get to on tomorrow's show, so very much looking forward to that. But to close out this show, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here. Mike Johnson, Shreveport native,
Yep.
has been elected to Speaker of the House. He's representing Shreveport. Big day for your hometown. Take it or leave it.
I mean, you know what this means. The Speaker of the House represents Shreveport. That means the entire legislative branch runs through Shreveport. Every decision made for this country is now made basically by Shreveport. That's how I understand the political structure.
Who would have thought?
Speaker of the House, it all goes to the 318. It's just what we thought. It's what I've always known, and now we have confirmation. And he's a Shreveport guy. He's an LSU guy.
Captain Shreve.
Basically, my dad went to Captain Shreve. Basically, the Palmers are Speaker of the House at this point. What a day for Shreveport. What a day. Unbelievable. I don't know how that affects my life. I don't really know what the Speaker of the House does. I can tell you who the starting rotation for Ole Miss is probably going to be this spring, but I don't know. I don't know what the Speaker does.
Oh, moving on here. Pels 82-0. Take it or leave it.
I'm probably going to leave that. I'm probably going to leave it. I do have cautious optimism about the Pels. They have broken my friends' hearts, broken Mario's hearts, broken everyone's hearts around here for the last couple of years. Hopefully they can get it together and do something fun. I think it's going to be difficult for Pels fans to really embrace the team in December because of what happened last year where they were so good the first 2 months and then it all fell apart. So even a hot start, I think, would get people people would be excited about it, but I think they'd all be like, well, you know what happened last year? Like, wait till Zion rolls his ankle. Like it just feels like that's the vibe. Hopefully they can change that.
Following that one up, Pels will win tonight in Memphis. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it.
Really?
Look,
no
I know,
John Morant,
no
no
John
Steven
Morant,
Adams?
no Steven Adams. I know the whole deal. Memphis has still been pretty good without John Morant.
Yeah.
Tough place to play, good crowd, and first game. I just kind of like the home team in the first game. I know the Pels played really well away from home last year in the opener, and I'm hopeful that they go out there and crush them by 20. But I kind of feel like the Grizz are the bet tonight.
All right, Michigan staffer Connor Stalions obviously in the news a lot.
Shout out to that guy.
Reportedly was writing a 600-page manifesto on how to run the football program in the future. Manifestos, take it or leave it.
Just can't leave it anymore. This guy, look, there's a small part of me that respects the hustle and the drive and the vision. Small. And then there's a big part of me that's like, dude, you need to chill out. Like, you need to really chill out. Like, he's some of the stories about this guy, he's nuts. Like, he's flying all over the place. He's trying to steal signals. He was apparently like, there are people that report when he was in the Navy, he was like overly obsessed with Michigan football even while in the Navy and trying to take this schooling that he was getting from our military academies and find a way to help Michigan beat Ohio State in football. Like, this guy may have a few screws loose. Again, like, he's a hustler. He's a grinder. He's an effort guy, wants to make it happen. But, like, this dude needs to find some way to, like, just take your foot off the accelerator for 2 seconds, look around and be like, hey, man, we might need to cool it. And now, like, what is this guy thinking right now? Like, he was totally incognito. No one knew who he was, what he was doing. He thought he was, like, revolutionizing football. And now he's all over the front page of every website, every outlet. Like, this crazy dude is taking trips all over the country trying to steal signals with binoculars from both sides of every Big Ten stadium. Like, yo, not great.
All right, last one here. Cauliflower rice. Take it or leave it.
Cauliflower rice. I'll take it. I'll take it. Look, you're looking for low carb. Obviously, I don't want to just like eat the cauliflower rice, but if you put it with like a pot roast, or you like maybe do red beans with it, or like we do bowls where we put like shrimp and broccoli and soy sauce or something in it, it works just fine. I'm in on cauliflower rice. I think there are a lot of people that don't eat vegetables that think that's just ridiculous. I promise it's not that big a difference. You cook it down and put butter, salt, pepper in it. Like, it does the trick. Rice is a vehicle for things.
Yeah.
So cauliflower does it.
Have you ever had a cauliflower steak?
No, that's just cauliflower on a griddle. Like,
no, it is, but there's ways to dress it up and it actually
like put like Worcestershire sauce on it or something.
No,
or?
You'll put like a Greek yogurt like dressing that you put on it and slide on it. It's actually pretty good.
I'm not opposed. Like, I want the real rice. I want the real steak.
Yeah,
but I understand that if I ate everything I wanted to eat all the time, I would die in about 20 minutes. So you got to make some concessions and eat a few things that aren't going to clog every artery you have and make you gain 400 pounds. So I try to keep it between the buoys at times. Like I talked about eating gas station pizza like 30 minutes ago, so we understand that my dietary habits aren't exactly perfect, but I am willing to make some concessions with things of that nature. So spaghetti squash instead of spaghetti noodles. Like we can make some of these things happen every once in a while. It's just not my preferred method, but it is what it is. The things we do to try to stay alive. Crazy. That'll do it here for a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Reminder that tomorrow I'll be at Rouse's from 3 to 5 after my show. That's usually a Friday situation. I had to move some things around. I will be there, Rouse's, Burbank, and Lee tomorrow. So make plans to get on by and see us to do your grocery shopping for the weekend. If you missed any of the show, you can catch it on demand. All the places we always tell you, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, anywhere you get your audio, and of course on YouTube. JD Piquel was with us from On 3 Sports. Appreciate him for hanging out with us. We heard from Dennis Allen as well as Brian Kelly and gave my thoughts on LSU's DB situation, short term and long term. Find all that stuff on demand. Matt's going to drive you home next. We'll see you tomorrow. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.